Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mysteries and Oddities videos. My apologies for the delay on this latest video. It's been a long week this week, especially work-wise, so I haven't had much chance to make some videos. So I'm finally able to now start working on your new suggestions. So be on the lookout for some upcoming videos too, based on some new and some past ones. This one is part of a new suggestion, and when I was reading this information, I found it so amazing, so fascinating. I've never heard of this concept before, even though it involves one of the big all-stars of the cryptid world, which I'm talking about the Bigfoot in this case. Normally, I wouldn't talk about Bigfoot per se, only because, again, it's too popular. A lot of people know the information on it. But this actually has to do with some very strange mysterious stuff that apparently either a Bigfoot or a set of Bigfoots or Sasquatches do throughout the country. Again, I had no idea that this type of stuff happens, but it just adds so many fascinating layers to how the Bigfoot and Sasquatches operate. It just makes you think and wonder what kind of weird, mysterious culture these beings have, especially if they create this stuff. And you're looking at a great example of it now. It's known, in this case, it doesn't have an official name, but I'll just tie it in and I'll call it as the mysterious Sasquatch Tree Structures. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the information associated with this very fascinating phenomenon. And so let's, first off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the suggestion. I loved it too because it crosses two things, in this case the mysteries, oddities, and then also cryptids and monsters. So what are these mysterious Sasquatch tree structures? Well, they are these trees or some type of structure made of trees found throughout various parts of the US. It's not just one localized part. In fact, it's multiple parts of the US altogether. In fact, just doing a cursory glance online of these reported sightings, there were multiple locations here in Texas, no less, which interests me so much because this is the kind of stuff that I would love to try to hunt later on. So multiple parts of Texas, both north and south, and then also in Colorado. Apparently that's a big area of finding these particular structures, also north and south, and then also other parts of the U.S. And these structures all tend to be tied to one thing: the existence of Bigfoots and Sasquatches, because in this case, where you find these structures, you tend to find them, or vice versa. Like if you find them out there, let's say from far away sightings or noises, then you find these structures afterward. So here's how it goes. The usual notion is if you're out there traveling around, and let's say you happen to be in a foresty type area, and let's say you start hearing these strange noises. Obviously you hear like a large growl somewhere, and you've heard of those tapes. You have probably by now, those supposed recordings of Bigfoots as they're making those loud yells or noises throughout night. Well, if you hear that, or in other cases, if you actually see Bigfoots walking around, it's much rarer, but if you see them from far away, then you can come across these things. These structures are made up completely of the trees surrounding or within the forest itself. They could be more of living trees, like let's say trees just taken up down by sheer force, or more commonly dead trees, just trees used that no longer have bark on them, no longer have much leaves on them. They're just rotting away, but they tend to be used for these structures. And the whole notion is that these things are being made by the Sasquatches and Bigfoots themselves. Why they do them, who knows? That's what makes it so mysterious. To this day, no one has any concrete evidence as to why they're done. Obviously, nobody has filmed them being done. No photos have been taken. No one has seen them while it's happening. They just seem to find this evidence afterward. But every time you hear or see Bigfoots nearby, then you find these structures there too. It made me wonder, like, why were they being done? What's the purpose of these structures? What makes it even more fascinating is the fact that there's so many variations of them too. The most common one is the teepee. It's the one where something took large pieces of these parts of wood and then made like a makeshift teepee out out of them. It got clearly big enough in some cases to even house a supposed Sasquatch or Bigfoot. This is the most common one found, probably the most frequent one, the most easiest one I guess you can make out of all of them. Then there's other more common patterns, which include an X pattern, just laying two large logs against each other in a way that they're still standing and holding each other upright. Then there's also a double X pattern, almost like a teepee, but just more of an X pattern, crisscrossing both left and right of each other. I saw pictures of arches. Something with enough powerful force was able to take a log and bend it in such a way you can just imagine like this thing resting it over its shoulders and then pressing down on its neck, this log, and that way it can arch this just gigantic log. Well, whatever it was doing it, creating this arch. By the way, these pictures that you're finding here, I've taken them directly from a very fascinating website, SasquatchInvestigations.org. I'll include the link below, and you'll see so many great examples of them. I mean, when you see all these pictures, there's probably dozens of them, you'll find that this is far too much to think that it's just one person messing around. Like, this is something else completely different. This is something that is that we don't know exactly what's causing this, but it can't be human in this case. Other patterns also are more of a crisscross. It's more like a big jumble of a whole bunch of smaller logs all placed into one, all crisscrossing each other. I've even seen more fascinating ones like a circular fence, like someone made a makeshift fence out of smaller logs, either in a circle or in a square, almost like they were building a territory. That leads me again back to the question I had earlier, like, what is the purpose of these structures? Why would these Bigfoots, these Sasquatches make them? It made me think, one, and the most common reason I think of, it's purely territorial. Animals do it all the time. Bears, for example, will strike a tree just to make sure that they leave their mark, that they'll leave scratches on it, and anybody coming across knows that that's their location. And then you hear stories of course, other animals using scents, like urinating within certain structures, so that way any other animal that passes by can smell it and know that that's theirs. So when it comes to territory, how different would it be for a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch to do this, to be able to create these structures using the very parts of the forest itself to easily mark its territory? You can just imagine then that builds on top of other things. Like, you could have these cultures, different clans of these Bigfoot Sasquatches within the U.S., each one marking their territory using their thing. Or another thing, of course, animals can do is they can use this as a form of mating. Like, let's say, building the biggest, fanciest, most complex structure that would help attract a mate and show, like let's say that yes, they have virility, that they're able to be a good mate for whoever they're trying to attract. Again, not entirely out of the concept. You see that all the time in the animal world as well. Or it could just be just something pure and like habit. Like in this case, ants will always build hills. Termites, they build those giant mounds. Even beavers, they build those nests. So why not have the idea that a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch could just build these things out of sheer habit? It's just like their way of being able to do something with what they have surrounding them. They may even do it, I'll just throw another theory out, as a form of art. Maybe this is their way of showcasing how they can create things, again, utilizing whatever is surrounding them. Isn't this fascinating? Like, this is just so many areas that you can go when it comes to a cryptid like this. The idea that they're not just simple beings just walking around eating and sleeping. No, in this case, they are truly creating something using whatever kind of thinking they have in their head to create these types of structures. And of course, it's just so fascinating, the idea that when you're surrounded by these structures, there's a good chance that you're walking in a territory of an actual Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Kind of dangerous when you think about it, but at the same time, it gives you the idea that you are close to them. Who knows? They could be seeing you as you're walking around these structures, taking these pictures. Now, just to play devil's advocate, there's always the idea too that these could just be built by humans. I mean, crop circles is a great example. Crop circles, they look so complex, don't they? I mean, you see some with so much intricate detail, and they're so large and so big. You wonder, how can anybody outside, it has to be extraterrestrial, how can any humans do these? But there are videos that show proof. All you need is just math, and then a good understanding of a map. Oh, do you hear that? There's a lot of thunder right now. Don't know if you folks heard that, but yes, there's a map that you can use, and I've seen videos of people using just a simple string, their own legs, and then a ruler, not a ruler, but one of those long measuring sticks, and they can use that to create this at night. Again, no sunlight, nothing else they need. They just simply follow those simple instructions, and then boom, they create these amazing crop circles. So the idea that humans with enough patience can create these structures, these giant tree structures, is not completely out of the realm too. But considering the strength that's needed, these logs are not light. Like, they are very, very heavy. And that's in some cases, when they're dead, let alone when these logs are alive, living, in other words, and they have trees and branches on them, how much heavier are they then? That stuff is the one that perplexes me. But what do you guys think about this stuff? Very fascinating note, this mysterious set of Sasquatch tree structures. Anybody come across them here in the U.S.? Anybody know any more info I might have missed? Please post those comments below. I'm going to definitely put this stuff in the back burner when it comes to my travels around Texas. If I can find an area where I can visit this stuff without getting, I guess, too far out there in a foresty type area. That's just one of my biggest fears, is doing this stuff and then getting lost and becoming one of those stories you read all the time where, people are found 4 days later almost dead, or in some cases dead themselves. But that's my biggest fear. But if I can find something close by, then this would be a great thing to investigate. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.